In this video, we are going to learn about Agile Model. Okay, so we have talked about waterfall model, we have talked about V model, we have seen their disadvantages and uses of V model. Everything was done. Now we are going to learn about Agile Model in this video. So, what is an Agile Model? Agile Model is an iterative process. Okay, it is a framework. It is also a framework. And in this Agile model, the project is divided into multiple phases or small parts. So if you remember, we have been talking about user stories, epics, user stories, tasks, and etc. All these comes under Agile model. Yes, all these comes under Agile model. In Agile model, the project is divided into multiple parts. Okay, multiple parts. These parts are called the user stories. So, and it's an iterative process where planning, development, and deployment will be done simultaneously for each and every part. Okay, so in this agile model is basically is also called as a Scrum model. Okay, we have Scrum and Kanban. Kanban I never worked, so I do not have any idea on it. But Scrum I'll explain. So Scrum is the iterative process in which there will be a fixed length of duration. So let's say Scrum is of 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, if there is an organization and if they are taking up the project into agile model, they have to follow either 2 weeks of sprint or 3 weeks of sprint or 4 weeks of sprint. These sprints are called the iterations. Okay, so you might ask me, so as you have mentioned, the project is divided into multiple parts. So if one part is developed in 2 weeks, and another part, can it be developed in 3 weeks? Another part, can it be developed in 4 weeks? No. It is a fixed length. Sprint is a fixed length of duration that is iterative until the project is completed. So, if there is a user story 1 that needs to be developed in user story 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 stories needs to be developed within these 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks of sprint. So if they have done, if they have started developing, or if the organization agrees to develop, to adapt 2 weeks of sprint, then until the project is completed, it is only 2 weeks of sprint. So first 2 weeks are done. In first 2 weeks, around 5-6 user stories are developed. Then comes the next 2 weeks. Then comes the next 2 weeks. Then comes the next 2 weeks. So it's an iterative model. Okay, every 2 weeks they will be picking up new user stories, new functionalities. They will be developing them. They will be releasing them to the for the launch. Okay, so you might ask me, does it have a maintenance phase? So unless the project is completely deployed, all the parts of the projects are completely deployed and it is live, there is no maintenance. Once the project is live, yes, the maintenance will be maintenance period starts as promised to the client in the SLA. Okay, SLA is service level agreement. Okay, now phases of you might think, what are the phases that are involved in agile model? The same phases that we have seen in waterfall and V model: requirement analysis, design, development, testing, deployment, launch. All the 6 phases are there. Now I'll show you what are these phases, and I'll take you into the agile model. Okay, let's see the document that I've prepared here for you. See, agile model is a project management approach that breaks the project into phases. Okay, for the continuous collaboration and improvement. This is a cycle of planning, execution, and evaluating. Okay, See, if you could see the diagram, it's a circle. The circle repeats. The circle repeats. Okay, I'll just zoom it in for your convenience so that I can show you how it actually works. See, there is a plan, design, develop, test, deploy, and there will be a review. After the review, it is a launch. So every user story, the same cycle repeats. Okay, that's why it's called a cycle of evaluating, executing, and planning whatever they have mentioned, whatever I have mentioned here. Okay, planning, executing, and evaluating. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, it involves 2 to 4 weeks of sprint, and these 2 to 4 weeks are fixed length. Okay, if the organization is adapting 2 weeks of sprint, then it is 2 weeks of sprint throughout the project. If they are adapting 4 weeks of sprint, then it is a 4 weeks of sprint throughout the project. And these sprints are called the Scrum. Okay. And this model involves, in Agile model, we do not have much documentation as we have seen in V model or in the waterfall model. In waterfall model and V model, there is a huge documentation. But coming to Agile model, documentation is very, 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 very minimal. Okay, here is the image for you where it explains the planning, design, develop, test, deploy, review, and then the launch. So it happens for each and every user story that is being developed. Okay. Now, change requests. You might ask me how the change requests are done and what it is and what not. So change requests are generally generally done on the particular user story. But when there is a change request comes up, then the existing user story is not modified. This is taken as a new task. Okay, so a new task will be developed based on this change request, and it is linked to that particular epic. And again, there comes the tasks: development tasks, testing tasks, development tasks, testing tasks, bugs, and everything comes up on the change request. Okay. And there are steps involved in it. Before going into the steps, I want to show you how the project will be divided into parts and etc. So I'll just take an example of one of the what we say the flight booking websites. Let's say this is a SpiceJet. Okay, in this, if you could see, there is a small window which have flights, check-in, flight status, manage booking. These are the different tabs. And below it, below the flights, we have welcome aboard, book your charter, let's go places, one way or round trip, from to departure, whatever it is. Okay, everything is mentioned here. Okay, now let's say this SpiceJet is being developed for the first time. Okay, and let's say this is the first website for the aviation. Okay, for the airplanes to book a tickets in the airplanes. Now, to book a ticket for the travel through airplanes. Okay, the flights. The flight booking is it's the first website for the flight booking. Say in that way. Okay. Now, let's say a new client has come to our organization and say that he said that I have an idea. I want to develop a project. I want to develop an application where customers could go and book their flights. Okay, book their flight tickets. Now, what will happen? Organization will take the requirements. Let's say the first of the requirements are such like there should be a login, there should be like login or sign up, and when they come onto the page, they have to see the flights. That is the first requirement. So what will developers do? Designing team and development team, they'll design the UI, UX, and navigation parts, and development will develop a login page, develop a sign up page, and after the login or sign up is done, the user will be displayed with this kind of window, okay, where flights will be there. Okay, in the requirements it's also mentioned like it should user should be able to select one way or round trip, or one way. Let's say one way is given first. Okay, one way, and it should he or they should be able to select from and to dates along with the departure date. Okay, these are the requirements as of now. Now, developer has done a great job, and he has developed till there. Now, when if you see each and every in this requirement, each and every step becomes a user story. How? Login page is one user story, sign up page is one user story. Once the user logs in, once he comes to this page, the flights page, he will be able to see the welcome aboard. Okay, so flights is one user story. Now, one way is one user story. From and to dates may become a user story. Departure date may become a user story. Okay, so all these may become a user stories. Okay, now once this is developed, once we have given it to the client, client comes again and say there is a change request. So I want to add the round trip, and I want my customers to be able to select the passengers and currency as well. So this becomes the change request. So this comes under again this epic. Now, what developer will do, what the BA will do, they will take up this change request and they will create a new user story, and that will be linked up to the epic. Now, what developers will do, they will add a round trip. Okay, adding a round trip is one user story, is one task. Adding passengers and is one task, and adding currency is one task. So in that user stories, there are 3 different tasks again. Okay. Now, again after some time, client comes again and say, I have another change request. Like I want to add the family and friends, senior citizen, all these radio buttons. And once everything is added, he should be able to search for the flights. Till then, search for the flights is not there, or search for the flights is there, but family and friends, senior citizen, all these are not there. Okay, so he says that he want to add those. This again taken as one more request, one more change request. Now that will be added into the web page again. Now what customers will do, what customers will be able to do, they will be able to log in, or they will be able to sign up. They will be able to come to the page. They will be able to book a one way or round trip. They will be able to select the from and to destinations, and departure, passenger, currency, and with whom they are going to travel. All these will be selected, and they will be able to search the flight. So now see, searching a flight has these n number of stories. Okay, this is only a part. Okay, this is only a part of the application. Let's say the whole application needs to be built. So just think how many more stories can come, how many more epics can come, how many more stories can come, how many more tasks and subtasks may come. Okay, so if we have to develop this project, if we have to develop an application as such, if we follow waterfall model or V model, it's it's not so possible that we'll be able to achieve in time with ease. Okay, but if we follow agile model, each and every story will be taken up with good care. It will be developed, it will be planned, designed, developed, tested, reviewed, and launched. Each and client will be able to work on it simultaneously. Simultaneously, client will be able to work on it. Client will get new ideas. Client will come and request for the change requests. All this can happen. Okay. Similarly, there are other tabs. So these all becomes another what we say part of the requirements. Okay. In this we have flight status. In the flight status, we can say departure date from to and selection of all these. We can give the search for the flights. So flight status only can become let's say flight status itself becomes one user story. So in that epic there is only one user story, that is flight status. Okay. So it might be as such that in this user story everything will be mentioned, and developer will be able to develop it, and the testing team will be able to test it. Okay, so it's not mandatory that epic and should have multiple user stories. It can also be that an epic can have only one user story and few change requests. So it can be in that way. Okay, so this is how the agile model works. I have shown you how the agile model works, and what we say how the stories, how the requirements are split into user stories and how they are developed. Now let's say let's see the steps involved in agile model. Okay, why do you think these steps are involved? Steps involved in agile model. So what are these steps? There are few steps that actually defines this agile model. Okay, I'll walk you through each and every step. Just keep watching. The first one is project planning. Yeah, the first one is project planning. What is this project planning? Okay, let's see. So planning, what happens in project planning is scope will be understood, planning will be done, what needs to be done, and how much estimation, everything will be done. Okay, project goals will be defined and it will be reviewed. That is the first step, project planning. The second one is product backlog planning. So what is this product backlog planning? So every user story that we have discussed till now, like we have discussed about the user stories, epics and tasks, right? So first of all these will be put into backlog. Okay, and in each sprint, some of the user stories or some of the epics will be pulled to the active sprint status. Now, what is this backlog? Backlog is something, let's say, in a simple layman language, if you have to say, it's some kind of storage. Okay, it's some kind of storage where we are putting some data. Okay, and whenever a sprint starts, we are pulling the data from that storage and we are developing it. So what is a backlog? Backlog is a place where all the user stories and epics will be placed, and whenever the sprint starts, some of them are pulled to the active sprint and they are developed. Okay, now see, in product backlog planning, requirements are understood, user stories are created, complexity is assessed, and criteria are defined. Apart from this, whenever the sprint starts, these user stories will be pulled into the active sprint. Now, third one is sprint O or sprint 0. Sprint 0 is the first sprint of the project. Okay, here the team is set up, infrastructure is set up, feasibility is assessed, how feasible it is to develop and etc. will be assessed. Okay, architecture is defined, and applicability, how to apply, all these will be discussed and defined here. Okay, team is set up, infrastructure is set up, feasibility is assessed, and architecture is defined, and all these are applied. Okay, so why team is set up? We should have some developers and testers to develop the project and test the project. So team will be set up here. Okay, infrastructure in the sense the environments like local environment, dev environment, QA environment, pre-live or UAT environment, production environment, all these will be set up. Feasibility, how feasible it is to develop the project or how feasible it is to take up the user stories. Let's say in one sprint, if it is planned to take up 5 user stories. Okay, so is it feasible to take up 5 user stories, or it could be less, will be discussed. Okay, and architecture is defined. Architecture of the project will be defined for those 2 sprints. For those 2 weeks or 4 weeks of the sprint. Next, applicability. How to apply, like how to proceed with these steps, how to proceed to develop, how to proceed to test. All these thoughts that we have planned till now will be implemented. Next, release planning. What is this release planning? Release planning is for every user story there will be for every sprint there will be a development life cycle. All the 4 phases of development life cycle goes, and those are released. So if in a sprint they have taken 5 user stories, 5 user stories should be completed with development and testing, and those should be released. So these release planning will be done in this step. Okay, what is the set schedule, what is the estimated story, plan and monitoring, and release will be done here. Next comes is sprint execution. So sprint execution is where actual sprint starts. So in this phase, the sprint is started. So let's say 1st August 2023 is the sprint 0. So sprint 0 is started on 1st August 2023 and it is for 2 weeks. So the next 2 weeks comes wherever it comes. Okay. Now, in this execution part, there are few things that will be decided. What is the goal? How many user stories and tasks needs to be completed along with the testing part. Okay. If there is any designing document, that will be updated. Okay. Next, tasks will be broken up. As I said, from the user story there are tasks. So these tasks will be broken up into pieces. Like front-end developer for front-end developer 1 task, back-end developer 1 task. QA team, for QA teams there will be test case design, test case execution, test case reviews. All these will be the different tasks that will be divided. Okay, for the user stories. Then estimates will be updated. Estimates will be updated in a particular tool called Jira. In that, the estimates will be updated. Like for example, development time is for 4 days per user story. So if they are starting on August 1st, 2023, August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. If there are any Saturday, Sundays, weekends in the middle, those 2 days will be left and the Monday date will be added. In that way, the estimations are set up. Okay, and the estimations does not involve the date. Okay, sometimes dates will be involved, but most of the times it will be how many days. Is it 1 day, 2 day, 4 day, 5 day, 6 day, in that. Okay, next next comes is sprint review. Once the sprint is executed and we have developed and we have tested, that will be reviewed. Okay, that will be reviewed. There will be one for every sprint. There will be demos and the discussions happens. Okay, and the plans will be updated for every sprint. Plans will be updated. There will be demos and the reviews will be scheduled. And the user stories that are developed, we need to give a demo to the stakeholders. So what are those user stories? What is their functionality? How are they going to work? All this will be discussed in sprint review. Okay, then comes is the sprint retrospective. So what is the sprint retrospective? Give me 1 minute. So what is sprint retrospective? Sprint retrospective is a meeting where it will be discussed what all went well for that sprint, what could be changed, and what is the action plan for it. So these three are the main points that will be discussed in retrospective meeting. So in retrospective meeting, first they will discuss what went well. Second, they will discuss what needs to be changed. Third, what is the action plan for it. Okay, once this retrospective meeting is done, then we will be delivering the product, the user stories that we have developed and tested till then into the pre-live or UAT environment. From there, it goes to the production environment. Okay. These chunks or these small parts will not be deployed to production environment one by one, but once everything is deployed to pre-live, once it is live, go live time, then only the build will be deployed to production environment. Okay, until then this circle goes on. Okay, until then this circle goes on. So the main drawbacks, there are few drawbacks about this. One of them is we need to give more time and commitment for it, because if we have to achieve something in 2 weeks, it becomes a bit harder. Okay, so we cannot predict what can happen next. So next comes is there is a high chance that we might skip the SL, we might go off track. That is, we might miss the SLA. Now, why would we go off track? Is the question. Why could we go off track? Why could we go off track? It is because, if you see, as I have said, if we go to the application, okay, let's say team has developed, let's say this flight page is developed, flight tab, and team did not develop the from and to dates. Okay, they have developed flights, they have developed one way and round trip, they have given the departure date, they have given the passengers, everything was given, but except for from and to dates. Okay, from and to dates they did not give it, or Yeah, let's say they did not give the from and to dates. Now, from and until the from and to dates are given, sorry, from and to destinations and departures are given, we cannot test this flight tab, because if the flight tab has to be tested, there should be each and everything that was mentioned in the requirement, okay, or in the epic. Now, from and to dates are the from departure and to destination plays a key role. Why does it play a key role? Because we do not select the uh, from and to places. How would system know from where you have to start and from where you have to go? System doesn't know, right? So because of this part, the whole testing is stopped. Okay. Now, when it and develop what developers have done, they have deployed the build to QA and marked it as ready for test. Now, as a QA, we have to go through the user story, and we identified that there is no from and to destination and departure places. There is no option to select, and that was mentioned in the user story. So what we have to do? We have to reach to BA. BA will ask developer to see that, and developer will again have to build it or develop it. Again have to give the build. All this takes around 3-4 days. Okay, let's say all this takes around 2 to 3 days. Now, for these 2 to 3 days, this particular functionality is stopped. And let's say it's end of the sprint. So, when it is an end of the sprint, we will not be able to, the development will not be completed, testing will not be completed, and it is carried forward to the next sprint. Now, when it is carried forward to the next sprint, that's where the main problem starts. Because, let's say, one task, a particular story, or around 2 to 3 stories were carried forward to the next sprint. And in such cases, we cannot predict that every story will be completed in within the sprint, right? Because already there are 3 stories that were carried forward to the next sprint, and in the next sprint we are picking up new stories along with these. So in such cases, most probably there will be a miss in the SLA. When it comes to the go live date, the team might have to face much pressure to complete the user stories, to complete the development, to complete the testing. They might have to extend. All these happens because of the miss in the user stories, or miss in the like they are carried forward to the next. And if it is if we do not have much time to develop, so most probably if it is a complex part, complex functionalities, there is a high chance that we will be carrying forward to the next sprint, and there is a high chance that we will be going off track. Okay, so all these happens actually. All these needs to be what management have to do. They have to keep in mind all this, and they have to plan it accordingly. Okay. Next is so there will not be much documentation as we have discussed earlier. So due to this less documentation might become one of the drawbacks, because not everything will be mentioned in the document. So we don't know, like sometimes what happens is, if there are in discussions, and if testing team says something and development team says something, So they might not come into an agreement because there is no documentation for that particular discussion on. Okay, so all these becomes the drawbacks, but still, apart from these drawbacks, agile model is very, 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 very useful and very helpful in the software development. In the software development. Okay, if you are building an application, trust me, agile model is the best we can use. Okay, there is another model called Kanban in the agile itself, but I'm not sure. I don't know how to how Kanban is used and what Kanban is also. So I'm skipping that part because I never worked in Kanban. I I only worked in waterfall model, V model, agile model. Okay, there are other models also which we do not which we do not need, but uh, you have to be careful with those models like waterfall model and V model. So people might ask what is a waterfall model. People might ask what is a V model. Okay, yeah. Here is one another tip. What V model can be bit confusing. Only thing that you have to remember about V model is what is verification, what is validation. If someone asks what is V model, simply say it's a verification and validation model where where SDLC phases and STLC phases goes simultaneously and they are connected by coding. Okay, and the uses that I have mentioned earlier in the previous video, uses and the drawbacks, mention them. That would be enough about the V model. And coming to agile model, try to explain as much as you can about agile model. Okay, it's very important, guys, because most of the companies use agile methodology. Okay, so the next video would be about um requirement traceability matrix. After that, we'll be going through the functional testing, types of testing. Okay, so before that, next video will be about testing methodologies. After this, we'll be discussing about requirement traceability metrics, then types of testing. Okay, guys, so practice well. All the best. See you on next video. Bye bye.